Por favor, sáqueme de Latinoamérica. Por favor, sáqueme de Latinoamérica. Por favor. ¡A huevo! ¡Es septiembre! No country in the world is perfect, but I am very happy to be born in a place with a culture as rich and varied as Mexico. Ay, México tiene un no sé qué de yo que sé. And it's really cool when you see something that represents you in media you like. So it dawned on me, a video Mexican representation on video games. I mean, why not? It's September, an important month for our history. There couldn't be a better time to do this. And with the assistance of kind Mexicans, I have a lot to cover here. So, shall we? Let's start by visiting the most obvious place where we can find Mexicans. Fighting games. Starting with Street Fighter, we have T.Hawk, who first debuted in Super Street Fighter 2 The New Challengers, a Native American who had his lands in Mexico taken over by Shadaloo, a man with a serious demeanor but a kind heart. Some Mexican representation that comes with T.Hawk is his stage in Street Fighter 2. This place is based on a real historic building called Hospicio Cabañas, found in Guadalajara, Jalisco. I find that cool, nothing more to say. Up next, we have a personal favorite of mine. Making his iconic entrance is...
It's super dynamic cooking time!
El Fuerte, a luchador who also takes on the role of a chef. I really like this guy. He's very hyper and passionate about what he does. From a gameplay standpoint, he's the complete polar opposite of T.Hawk. Both characters are grapplers, but because T.Hawk is slow, his strategy is more about guessing your opponent's moves and countering at the right time, whereas El Fuerte is very mobile and fast. Fighting him is a guessing game, because thanks to his blinding speed, you can't really tell what he'll do next. Also, his move names are just great. Habanero Dash, Enchilada Jump, Fajita Buster. Finally, we have Necalli from Street Fighter V, and I think he's Aztec? You know, an ancient empire from Mexico? I'll be honest, there's not much I can say about him. I didn't play that much of 5. That might change in the future, but for now, the best he gets is a mention to his origins. Now, leaving Street Fighter, we pay a visit to Tekken. I will say, I don't have much experience with this series other than being familiar with its characters. And you bet King has always caught my attention. Even more so thanks to his backstory. It turns out that King is a name held by two different men. The first King was a Catholic priest who used his status as a wrestler to bring income to an orphanage, as well as teach the orphans how to defend themselves with his techniques. What a guy! Unfortunately, after the second game, King 1 was murdered, and a kid, who is implied to be from the same orphanage, dons his mask to carry on his legacy and continue to help children in need. That's as far as I go here. As I said, Tekken is not my specialty, and I don't feel comfortable talking about something I'm not well informed on. But still, King is great! It's no wonder he's so recognizable at sight, even to those who are not deep into fighting games. The next series, however, is one I'm more familiar with. Have you ever heard that Mexicans are inherently good at the King of Fighters? You'd be surprised at how true that is. In this vast cast of characters we have nothing but grapplers. What a surprise. I mean, I know why it's like that. Lucha Libre. Holding your opponents is rather common there. Just an observation. From Team Mexico, it's Ramon, a wrestler who joined the King of Fighters tournament with the intention to help and woo Vanessa. I can't blame him. Vanessa has always been one of my favorite characters in this series. Thanks to that I can relate more to Ramon beyond being Mexican and having tacos as a favorite food.
Viva Mexico!
Angel is probably the one you're almost familiar with, and likely for all the wrong reasons. A former agent of Nest who joined the tournament with Ramon because she was in the mood. Outside of that, there's not much information I can provide on her other than she shares moves with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson! That's amazing! The last one is quite an interesting dude. T.Hawk, who debuted in Garo Mark of the Wolves. Just by looking at him, you can already deduce his whole character. He's a wrestler whose gameplay focuses on grappling. But if I could say something real quick, I think his design is absolutely sick. It's not only that, he also has an over-the-top presentation that really makes him stand out and evoke that action superhero feeling. And this also applies to his alter ego, the King of Dinosaurs. Listen, a dino wrestler? That shit's dumb as hell. I love it. One last mention should go to the stage from Team Mexico in 14, the city of Guanajuato. Taking a closer look at this stage, I think it greatly represents the place. Bright, colorful, and brimming with culture. A nice show of how beautiful a lot of places here are. That's about it for King of Fighters. So let's end this section on a high note. From the depths of Marvel vs. Capcom 2, a character who made its one physical appearance only to never be seen again, we have the ultimate Mexican, Amigo. Look at him! A humanoid cactus wearing Mexican clothes and a sombrero. He also plays the guitar. How adorable! I have great news to share. He's not a grappler. His role is more of a rushdown character, constantly needing him to be close to deal damage. True to his nature as a cactus, he attacks by morphing his body into multiple plants and summoning cute little cacti. There's not much left to say. Amigo is awesome. I think it will be cool to see him again someday because... oh. That's it. I don't think I'm missing anyone important. Well, there is someone. In Super Smash Bros. Melee, there's this running joke that only Mexicans play Luigi, mostly attributed to a pro player called Eddie Mexico. So you know what? Fuck it! I hereby declare Luigi as the official Mexican representation in Super Smash Bros. I'm just fucking around. Fighting games were quite an easy target, wouldn't you say? So let's see how other games represent Mexico. Super Punch-Out! The one game from the series that nobody ever seems to talk about. Is it because Little Mac is blonde? It's probably because he's blonde. Honoring the series' tradition of making huge stereotypes of every country, known as the third fighter from the major circuit, hailing from Mexico and having 19 wins under his belt, it's Masked Muscle! Yo, that's cool! I wonder how he fights. Oh wow! Oh shit! He's an asshole and a cheater. This guy sucks. Let's move on. Alright, here's another suggestion. Quetzalcoatl from the Fate series. Wait, isn't that hentai? Oh, okay. Fate is many things. A hentai category, an anime, and a visual novel. So it counts as a video game. Let's see then. Quetzalcoatl. I'm not very excited. The last time I saw a Quetzalcoatl character in Japanese media, she looked like the cheapest possible horny bait for lonely fox. But who knows? Maybe the Fate series has a fairly decent feather serpent? ¿Dónde has estado toda mi vida? Let's go to a game everybody and their mom is very familiar with. Grand Theft Auto 5. God, I had so much fun with this one. And there was a little something that always impressed me. how they nail the presence of Mexicans in this game. I'm not talking about them just being there. Idioms, vocabulary, accents, all of that was on point, and you bet I loved it. I also want to make special mention of Don Cheto, a real Mexican singer whose songs are not only in this game, but he also hosts an entire radio station in GTA 5. When I found out about this, there was almost nothing else I will listen to while driving, just because I wanted to hear what dumb stuff he will say. A small surprise that kept me entertained the entire game. So far we have seen characters that come from Mexico. But what about events that happen in the country? Tomb Raider is a series I have next to no experience with. I don't think they look boring, I just never fully played them. But I don't think I can exclude this one. At the beginning of Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Lara pays a visit to the island of Cozumel in Mexico. Why? For what reason? I don't know. I just find it cool that she does that while there's a festival of Dia de los Muertos. From the footage I saw, I found it cute, charming, and most importantly, accurate. A great show of Mexican traditions, and that is much appreciated. There's another game that takes this festivity to a higher ground. Rayman Legends, a masterpiece in platformers. It doesn't just make one level, it makes an entire world on Dia de los Muertos. The amount of creativity behind all of this just blew me away. Yes, it has all these faithful Mexican aesthetics, but now combine all of that with the sheer absurdity of the Rayman games. You have Murphy spreading guacamole to make platforms while you're transformed into a duck, escaping from giant luchadores that use Chilean insults against you, and a mariachi rendition of Eye of the Tiger. Seriously, you are doing yourself a huge disservice by not playing this game. Red Dead Redemption doesn't go much for the culture, but rather history itself. John Marston, while hunting down an old comrade of his, has to illegally cross the border into Mexico. His chase soon escalates into something bigger, the Mexican Revolution of 1910. Originally aiding the army, he ends up siding with the rebels, while over the course of the conflict you meet a lot of characters largely based on real historical figures. I found this to be one of the most memorable parts of the game, because it's just so awesome. And also because this happened to me. Gravity Rush is a game that has absolutely nothing to do with Mexico in terms of setting or gameplay. But if you go to the gallery, you might come across some nice little images that depict the main characters in multiple real locations around Mexico. This artwork was used to promote the game around the country. And what else can I say? I just find all of this genuinely adorable. Continuing with the adorable, I can't exclude the Sand Kingdom from Super Mario Odyssey. When I heard this level was created because the game's director visited Mexico and liked the country and culture a lot, that made me smile. The town of Tostarena was obviously the highlight. First of all, it's inhabited by little skulls that represent sweets from the country. When you take a closer look, it's also evident how much they researched Mexican architecture, aesthetics, and decor. Of course, the cherry on top was dressing Mario with a poncho and a sombrero, and then going to play the guitar to get a moon. I love this game a lot, and this certainly was a bonus for me. Metal Gear Rising. This game is stupid. That's the best way I can describe it. It's dumb and self-aware. And one of the first scenes that makes you realize that is this one.
Relax, Kev. I'll blend right in. ¿Quién es ese güey? Un mariachi, ¿no? Adiós, amigos. ¿Viste? Qué raro, ¿eh? Hay que hacer que no lo vimos. Vámonos ya.
And that's it. All they needed was a poncho and a sombrero for this to take effect. Being in Mexico doesn't matter much in-game, because you spend most of your time in the sewers. But I still wanted to mention it because it's so good. Also, you can use that costume the entire adventure if you want to. I did that. I had fun. Culture isn't just about food and history. It's also made up of legends and mythological creatures, otherwise known as monsters. The most obvious choice will be Pokemon, Ludicolo and how Lucha fit the topic of this video very well. A Mariachi and a Luchador. I like these dudes, but they are just creatures based on the culture. And while that is good, we can do better than that. Shin Megami Tensei is the best place to look. A game series that lets players recruit demons from multiple cultures. And Mexico is not excluded from this. Get ready, because a long list is coming. Chupacabras. As the name implies, it's a creature that feeds on goats, but is also believed to attack other animals. Ocelot. No, not that one. These are cat species from Central America, said to represent the sun and the day. La Llorona. A woman who drowned her own children and committed suicide. She is now doomed to wander in the world of the living, crying out for her children, and will kidnap any kid who comes across her. Coatlicue was known for having the appearance of an ugly woman who, besides having a skirt of snakes, had a collar made out of human hearts. She was always on the lookout for human sacrifices. Ishtar, the Rogue Lady. She is the goddess of suicide, most commonly represented with a noose. Quetzalcoatl, the Feather Serpent, also known as the creator god of the Aztecs who presides over life and fertility. Tezcatlipoca, brother of Quetzalcoatl, most commonly associated with the night, death, war, and sorcery. Bukumats. Just like Quetzalcoatl, he is also known as the Feather Serpent and the god of creation. With the help of the god Huracan, they both brought life to Earth. Tlaltecutli, the Lord of the Land, described as a sea monster that lived after the Fourth Great Flood. Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca split Tlaltecutli in half, sending one part to the skies to create the stars, and the other half was transformed into land. Tzitzimitl, monstrous deity from Aztec mythology believed to be the stars that protect what is feminine in mankind. Ometeotl, translated as dual god. The male counterpart is known as Ometecutli, and the female side goes by the name Omecihuatl. Tlazolteotl, the goddess of scat fetishes. Okay, that's gross, I'm just joking. Well, kinda. A double-natured deity, known as the Lady of Lust, Sex, and Morality Transgressions. But at the same time, she represented purification and forgiveness. If she looks like she's eating shit, it's because back then the sins related to lust used to be represented with excrement. And Tlazolteotl was also known as the Eater of Filth. Thought you'd like to know that? Mayahuel, a deity that represents the natural world, also related to maternity and fertility. Tlaloc, the god of rain and thunder, known for his ability to bend water to his will. Because of that, he was heavily worshipped so he could send rain that would help crops grow. Xiuhtecutli, the spirit of fire and warmth. He represents light in darkness and life after death. Tonatiuh, the sun itself, the leader of the sky. He was also praised as a god of war who would give warriors strength in battle. Camazotz, from Mayan mythology, a half-human, half-bat monster that represented a killer god, for both life and death. Caracan, the god of mountains and earthquakes, and probably the basis for Torterra. And finally we have Itzamna. From the Mayan pantheon, this deity is the lord of medicine, representing the moon, and was the one responsible for bringing civilizations to the world. God, that was way more than I expected. But it was awesome doing all this research. It just goes to show that other cultures can still represent ours in great ways. And demons? That's cool! So, by this point we have seen characters, settings, history, traditions, mythologies, and Luigi. So it's time to press on to the final frontier. Games that fully take place in Mexico. Okay, I'll be real. There's not that many games I can expand upon. I was recommended the likes of Total Overdose, Call of Juarez, and Chili con Carnage. But again, I don't think I should go too in depth about something I don't know too much about. Guacamelee luckily is an exception. To sum it up, what we have here is a Metroidvania with beat-em-up elements. It focuses more on tight platforming challenges and references to other media. The Mexican influence can be seen everywhere, on the characters, the architecture, the colors, and even the music. That's as much as I'll say, but if you were to ask me if Guacamelee is good, I'd say absolutely, go for it! Now, to finish this video, I'll be going with the easiest source of Mexican entertainment.
El Chavo!
Oh yeah, I'm back at it after 2 years. I've already reviewed these games, and you know what? For one of my first videos, it's one of the few I can still recommend you watch. It sounds like shameless plug, I know, so I'll give you a brief summary of each game. El Chavo on the Wii is a party game, and it sucks. I honestly can't recommend it. There's only one board in the entire game that never changes, and some minigames that are fairly decent. But since this is the Wii we are talking about, most of them have motion controls. The worst ones, may I add, don't tell you if you're doing it right, so you just waggle the controller hoping for the best. It has some inherent appeal that can take effect if you're a fan of the show, but in just a few rounds you've already seen everything it has to offer. Honestly, you're better off just playing Mario Party. El Chavo card, however, and I still get called crazy to this day for thinking this, is a whole different story. No joke, I honestly believe this game is really fun, and that was a surprise for me. When I got it, I expected an awful Mario Kart clone, but that's not the case. El Chavo card is fast. It asks for a decent amount of skill, and at times it can get rather crazy. From a different perspective, there's more to appreciate. The characters are portrayed faithfully from the show, and they paid full attention to the setting, seen throughout the little details and nods to Mexico. The biggest drawback with this game is that when you find a fault, it's glaring. A lot. The frame rate is atrocious. The soundtrack goes beyond being boring, and later cops recycle the same stages but in reverse. The cut corners stand out, and that's the main problem. But if you can get past that, maybe you'll find some degree of appreciation for this game. It's honestly a great time. That's it. That's all I could find, and all the suggestions I could cover. Making this video got me thinking. This might be a risky statement, but here I come. I don't think you need to add all of this representation in order to enjoy something, but it helps. Much more than you can imagine. Would I think any less of Metal Gear Rising if it didn't have Mariachi Raiden? No, because if you take that away, this is still one of the best character action games out there. But that little scene and costume are small details that make me stupidly happy because I can easily connect to them. I find it so incredibly stupid when people go, Why are there women and minorities in my video game? Dude, go outside. There's all sorts of different people, cultures, and ideas, and that's something awesome about living. This representation isn't done only to make a specific group of people happy, but also to share the message of how vast and diverse the world is. And video games are a good gateway to deliver that. So, is there something you believe I missed? Or even better, is there something in a game that represents your roots and makes you really happy when you see it? I'll be keeping an eye in the comments because I'd love to see you share your experiences. So to end this video, thank you so much for watching. Muchas gracias, amigos.